Okay. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. In today's session, we are going to understand how Django models work. So we will be using Models API, which is available in Django, which helps us access MySQL databases and other databases and perform operations like creation of tables, creation of individual fields and the schema, and then performing various transactions. So the objective of today's session is to create a new Django application. Using that Django application, we are going to define models. As you all know, we are taking up the blog project. So we are going to create a blog application. And within the blog application, we guys are going to create tables for comments and for post. So we are going to define our database fields. And once we are done with defining the database fields in Python, we are going to migrate our Python model, the models created within the Django project, Django application. These migrations will make the tables created within the MySQL database. And finally, we are going to check and evaluate the databases, and we will see the tables created using Django. So let's get started with the session. So I hope it's clear what we are up to with Django models today. And so I have a server here which we will be taking up in this demonstration. This server I'm making is 13.233.250.174. So I've connected to this server, this the Kali Linux server, and within this server we have got this project blog which we created in the previous session. So if I take you to the blog directory, we have a blog project which we have created, a blog application which we have created in the previous session in order to communicate with the databases. And in the previous demonstration, we have already configured MySQL configurations. We have already configured settings configuration, and post configuration of those settings and the MySQL CNF file, we have launched our Django project. So once we were able to launch our Django project successfully, we were able to identify that the database connections have been done appropriately. Now, today we are going to introduce models within the blog project. These models is nothing but a model API, which actually helps the Django project communicate with the databases, perform operations like creation of tables, creation of schema, insert the queries, delete the queries, and performing all kinds of CRUD operations, which are generally known as create, read, update, and delete operations. You'll be able to do that. Later, you will be able to connect your databases with your web applications, with the user interfaces, and you can make use of a complete web application written in Django. So let's get started. Today, we are going to create the models within the blog project. So as you all are ready, let's go to the blog project. Now here in the blog project, first of all, what you need to do is, since we have already created the application in the previous session, so we have got settings.py, urls.py. This is our blog application, which was blog project, which was available. Now within this blog project, we are going to start with a new application. So in order to create an application, I'm going to make use of user, anaconda, bin, Python. Once we're done with that, we're going to use manage.py. We are going to create a new application, and let's call this application as blog1. Okay. So once we have created a blog1 application, if you would like to observe, we can make use of tree and we can quickly check the blog1 directory. Now, once we have created this application, there are two important files which you all have to encounter today when we create models. So first is the models.py file. This models.py file imports the model API, and using this model API, you can create different tables. You can define fields within each table. You can define their limits like the maximum limit and the uniqueness, all those things you can configure. You can in fact define foreign keys and other types of constraints which can be configured in a database. So once we are done with that, we are going to migrate those models using the migrations. So once we perform the migrations will help us create the tables automatically using Django project within MySQL. Okay, so let's go for it. So what next you guys are going to do? let's start with working in the project. So within the structure, now what we are going to do, we are going to add the post models. So in order to do that, we need to edit the models.py file, which is contained within our project. And we are going to generate the code for the post model. So let me just quickly take you there to the models.py file. We'll quickly go to blog one. And within this blog one, if we make a list, you can see that we have our models.py. So let's open sudo nano models.py. So once we open models.py file here, we are going to define different types of models here. So first table or model which we will be creating in MySQL will be a post table, let's say. The post table will actually take care for all kinds of features like the title of the post, the content of the post, and the valid URLs of the generated post and web pages, which we also call as slug. So we are going to define all these things along with when the post was created and who was the author of the post. So some of these common information we will be specifying here. So just for your information, let me define what all we are going to have. We are going to have the title of the post. This will be the title of the blog post. Second, we will define slug. So slug is nothing but a valid URL which is stored and generated for the web pages which we create within the blog. So we call it as the slug. You are going to understand what slug is as soon as we proceed further. Followed by slug, the third field which you will define will be the content of the blog post. The content is nothing but the textual content of the blog post, which we are going to define. Finally, we will have the fourth field, which will be known as the created on field, and this will contain the date on which the post was created. Finally, you are going to have the fifth column, and this column will be an author column. So the person who has written the post will be specified in the author column here. So as you all know, first thing which we are going to create is we are going to create the post table using our models.py file. Now what you can do is you can open your models.py file in any of your editors. We are using Nano editor in order to perform this processing. So first of all, what we are going to do. So within this file, the code to import the models API is already added. So if you all can observe here, this is the code. This is the syntax for importing the models API, and models API is already added. So we can go ahead and delete. We can go ahead and import other important files like the APIs for slug, the APIs for identification of the URLs. We will be needing a couple of more more APIs. So let's just quickly define those APIs and libraries here. So in the next cell, what am I going to do? I'm going to make use of a Slugify, which will, this library will be used for generating slugs from the strings. And these strings will help you create the valid URLs for the web pages. So many times you all would have seen on a blog, let's say if there is a blog which says top 10 habits to implement in lockdown, let's say. Okay. So what this blog project will be capable of, it will take this title and using the Slugify library, it can actually convert that web page title as a URL page, and you can quickly run it through your application. Okay. So we are going to make use of Slugify. So for that, let's just make use of Django. We're going to define the template. Now within the template, we are going to have the default filters. And from the default filters, you're going to import Slugify. Okay. So we are going to define that. Now, once we are done with that, you have got the Slugify. Another library or API you will be using is the Django's user API, which is used for authentication. So for that, we are going to make use of from Django.contrib.authentication.models, and we are going to make use of user, import user. Followed by what you guys are going to do, the third library is the URLs API. So using this URLs API, we are going to make use of an API known as reverse. which gives us greater flexibility while creating URLs for the blog. So let's just use that from Django dot URLs. We're going to import reverse. Okay, so we have got the appropriate libraries required for this project. Now, once we are done with that, we are going to add the class method on the model class, and we will be calling that class as post. Okay. So with the following database fields like the title, slug, content, created on, and author. So let's go for it. Let's just create the post table. So we are going to create a class post, and we are going to receive the variable models.model. Okay, this will help you create a model within your database. So as you all remember, in the previous video we have created a database known as uh, I think blog database, something db blog we have created. So within that database blog we are going to get these tables created, the post tables as well as the comments table, which we are going to create. Now, first of all, what I want to do, first field I want to create in my table will be a title field. Okay. So using the models, this is going to be the character field. I'm going to define it as a character field. So this character field will be the type of the value which will be stored within the title column. Okay. So we say it is going to be a field of characters in the title. So it could be alphanumeric. We are going to make use of character field and we will define the maximum length. So let's define the maximum length as 255. Okay. So 255 will be the maximum length. Is my voice audible to you properly?
Uh, yes,
Do,
sir. Almost properly. Sometimes
if
there's a bit disturbance, but uh, overall it's okay.
okay, wait, just hold on for a minute. Let me just connect with another internet. Okay. I think, am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we have been working on this blog, cd blog. Within that, let's go to our application blog one. And within the blog one, we have the models.py, sudo nano models.py. Okay, just I have to type all the libraries again. I believe due to internet connection, we were unable to save that. Not a problem. So I'm going to use my three libraries, Slugify, User, and Reverse. So using Django, we're going to make use of template using default filters. We're going to import Slugify. Along with, we are going to make use of Django.contrib dot authentication dot models import user from Django dot URLs import reverse. Okay. Now let me just save that and let me just change the value of Django to Django. Okay. And here also under the authentication, we do need to make use of models import user Django.urls import reverse slugify default filters template. Fine. Let's create the post now. So in order to do that, we're going to create a class. Let's just create a class post. Now within this class post, we are going to have models.model. Now here, what next we are going to do? We're going to make use of title. Title will be a character field. Will be a character field, maximum length. Then we are going to make use of content. Sorry, we need to make use of 5 things: title, slug, content created on an author. So let's just create slug. We are going to make use of models. We are going to call it as a slug field, and this slug field will be unique. Okay. So you can pass the unique parameter so that individual valid URLs of your web pages will be unique. So there won't be two same URLs for one specific blog. Okay, or let's say for two different blogs, there won't be any same URL, so that each blog post can be accessed uniquely. Titles could be same, but the unique slug fields will make it unique, and it's going to ensure that you are going to have appropriate names, appropriate URLs for every individual blog post. Along with that, again, let's take a max length. The max length again would be somewhat like 255 for the URL. Followed by, you're going to define the content. To define the content, we're going to make use of models, and we're going to define it as a text field, because text will be able to hold larger data. So we have defined it as text. It will contain alphabets, numbers, symbols, and every information here. So we will be taking text field type for content. Along with that, we are going to create the created on date. This will define the date time when the post was created, and we are going to automatically take this value. So we are going to use date time field, and using date time field, we are going to specify a property auto now add. So if you make it auto now add as true, it will automatically take the server time and insert into the database. So it will automatically help you identify when the post was created. Followed by, we are going to make use of author. Let's make use of models and text field. Okay. Now here, models or text field we have defined. So these are the 5 important parameters, or you can say field, which we will be creating within the post table. So I have saved this file. Next, we will add functionality for the generation of the URL and the function for saving the post. This is crucial because this creates a unique link to match our unique post. So how we are going to do that? We are going to define 2 methods here within the class post, and this is going to be get absolute URL. Okay. So we are going to define a method get absolute URL. Here we are going to return a URL, and this is going to be the unique URL. So for this, we will be using the reverse function from the reverse API, and this reverse function is going to help us create the blog post detail. Under the blog post detail, we are going to have the slug returned. So let's just define it as blog post underscore detail, and we are going to add a few arguments. These arguments will actually contain your slug. So we are going to make use of self.slug. So we have defined a variable in the post class known as slug variable. That slug variable will be used here, and as an argument for the blog post detail. Okay, and this will be returned as a absolute URL for the unique blog post. Followed by, we are going to save the blog post as well. So we have to define a save function. So for the save function, you can define yourself. Along with, for the save, we can also provide multiple arguments like arguments and the keyword arguments. You can define them. Okay. Even if you don't want to define it, that is also fine. That won't be a problem. But just for sake of completeness, I have defined it. Followed by, if not self.slug. If the URL is not self.slug, then what we are going to do, we are going to slugify the title and we are going to add it into the slug variable, and then we are going to save it. Okay. So let's just save the title into slug. And how we are going to do that? We are going to make use of this slugify API, and within this, we are going to pass the title. So depending on the given title, we are going to convert this title into a slug, and using that slug, we are going to generate an absolute URL, and that URL will help us access the blog post. So finally, we need to write one more statement, and this statement, what it will define, we are going to execute a super method. We're going to execute the class post along with the self variable, and we're going to call the save function along with the standard arguments as well as the keyword arguments. Okay, so what it is going to do, it is going to save your blog post. Okay, so once you are done with saving the blog post, what next we need to do? We need to tell the model how the post should be ordered. So when a user is going to access the blog post, he should view the blog post in a specific order, and we would like to arrange these order on the basis of the blog post created. Okay, so we are going to ensure that how the post will be ordered and displayed on the web page. The logic for this will be added to a nested inner meta class. So we are going to create an inner class within the post class, and this class will be known as a meta class. The meta class generally contains other important model logic that isn't related to database field definition. Okay, so you're not going to define all these meta kind of information like the ordering information on the database. Instead, for the web page, you're going to define that meta information as an inner class. So let's just create an inner class. Let's just create a class known as meta, and this meta class will be capturing your ordering information. So I am defining a variable, let's say an ordering variable, and here I am going to identify the ordering on the basis of created on parameter. You can pass n number of parameters here. I have just passed in a list, I have just passed one parameter, but with comma separated, you can pass multiple parameters as per requirement, that how would you like the ordering of the post. So sometimes it would be like you would like to make the post order on the basis of a date as well as the category. So you can define multiple columns here. But as of now, we just have a column known as created on. So we will be ordering on the basis of that. Now within this inner class, what we are going to do now, we're going to define a Unicode method. So let's define a Unicode method, and this Unicode method is going to receive the self argument, and we are going to return self.title. Okay, so once we are done with that, finally we will add the comment model to this file. This involves adding another class named comment with models in its signature, and we are going to define certain fields. So as of now, till now you guys are clear that we are done with creation of the class post. So we got a post table created. In fact, this post table in MySQL database will have title, slug, content created on an author, and title will be of character field type, slug will be slug field type, content will be a text field, created on will be a date time field, and author will also be a text field. Okay, along with, we are going to get the absolute URL, and we are going to, we have defined the save function also, and we have defined the ordering information with meta information. Followed by this, next what we need to do. Now, for every blog post, you guys would have seen that generally people comment on each blog post. So just in order to handle the comments, we are going to define certain fields within the comment. Let's say we are going to define name of the person who is commenting, his email ID of the person who is commenting. We're going to define the website or any link which he is trying to comment. Then we are going to define the content of the comment. Then we are going to define the post on which the comment has been made. And finally, when the content or when the comment was created on. So we are going to define a few more fields in the comment table. So with one models.py file, you can create n number of tables in MySQL, and then you will be able to perform the transactions. So how we are going to define that? Let's go for it. So now within this, now what am I going to do? I'm going to create another class, and this class is going to be a comment class. Okay. So comment class as in this will be a table which will be created in our MySQL database with which we have connected. Now what next we are going to do? So let's just define, first of all, we are going to define a name. This name will be a character field. So let's just define the character field. Let's say maximum length of a name will be 40 characters. So we are going to define, let's say 40 characters for the name. Okay. Then let's deal with email. So for models, we are going to have an email field. We are going to define that the database is going to contain only emails here. Along with, we are going to define the maximum length. The maximum length would be, let's say 75 for an email ID. Followed by, we are going to have the website field here. For the website, we are going to have models.url field. So website will contain the URL field. And let's just define the maximum length of that URL would be, let's say, not more than 200. Even if somebody don't want to define that, we can keep it as null. The null will be allowed. Okay. As well as what next you can do? Let me just clear this. Okay. So once you have, it could be null also. The website could be null also for the user who's commenting, and it could be blank as well. Okay. So it could be empty as well as it could be blank with spaces. Further, we can have the content. For the content, we are going to have models.text field. We are going to define the field text field here. Then you're going to have the post information. This post, we are going to connect the comment with the post in the post table. Okay. So as you can see here, this statement is very important. What we can do is we can make use of the concept of foreign keys here. So what could be a foreign key? Foreign key would define something like this. You can actually explore about databases in the next, or I am going to give you certain resources, but for now I just want to show you. Let's say if we have got a post, if we have got a comment here. So there are two tables in the database. Let's say there is a post table and there is a comment table. Okay. And let's say there is a person who has performed a comment. Let's say somebody has made a comment on a post number 5, let's say, which is defined on a database. So how we are going to link the comment with that post? So we are going to make use of foreign keys here. Okay. So this concept will be known as a foreign key, with which we are going to define, let's just define foreign key. So using the foreign key, you are going to actually connect the comment from one table to the post on the other table. Okay. So let's just define here. So I'm going to make use of models. I'm going to define foreign key. Okay. This foreign key should be foreign key. So once you have defined the foreign key, you have to define the table with which you want to connect. So I'm going to connect my comment table with a post table, as well as in case if that is deleted. So what we are going to do, we are going to use cascade modeling. Okay. What is that? I'm going to share a tutorial with you wherein you guys will be able to understand about databases. So we can make it cascade on deletion. Now, once you have got the post done, we are going to define created on. So now for created on, we are going to define models dot, let's call it as date time. Okay, we are going to have the date time field, and again this is going to be auto now add. Okay, So we have created this one models.datetime field auto now add equal to true. Okay, so we have got the comments table created as well using the Django models. So we have got name, which is a character field, email, which is an email field, website, a URL field, content as a text field, post as a foreign key, and created on as a date time field. So once we are done with that, you can quickly ensure the complete code which we have implemented over here. We have imported three important libraries, Slugify, User, and Reverse. Then we created a post table. Within the post table, we have created 5 fields, title, slug, content created on an author. We have defined the absolute URL for the post as well as saving the post function. We have also defined the ordering information using the meta information. Then we created another table known as the comment table. We have defined the name, email, website, content, post, and created on field here. So that's how we have got our models.py created. So once we are done with creation of models.py, let's save it and let's close it. Now there will be a step 3. Once you guys are ready with models.py, now you have to perform updation of settings, which means you have to define in the installed apps settings that you have got a new application created and you are going to add the information of that application under the installed apps under settings.py file. So if we quickly get back to the project, so this is, let's just get out of here. Now here, blog is our project where we have the settings.py and blog one is our application. Okay, so let's quickly go to the blog project. Within the blog project, we have settings.py. Within this settings.py, we have to perform configuration of updation of the installed apps. Okay, so for this, what we are going to do, let's just open sudo nano settings.py. Okay, so once we open settings.py, within this settings.py, you are going to get an installed apps section. So here, the installed apps are available here, application definition. Now within this application definition, what you have to do is, you have to add the name of your application. So I'm going to define the name of my application, which I have created as blog1. So what we are trying to do, once we have created the model in the application, we are defining that this application will be an installed application and we are defining the name of the application under the application definition in the project settings.py file. Okay, let's save it, Control O and save it. I hope this is clear to all of you till here. There were how many steps? We have created the application, then we have created the model, and finally we have added the application information in the install applications definition in settings.py. Is that clear to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So once we have got the application definition created, let's just save it, Control O, Control X. And finally, we have to perform the migrations. So what do we mean by migrations? Let's have a look. So once your models, post and comment are added, the next step which you have to do is you have to apply these changes to the MySQL database schema. And you want that MySQL database scheme should recognize your tables, post and comment, and it should create those tables within the database. So for that, what we need to do, we must package our model changes into individual migration files using the command make migration. So there is a command using manage.py. So let's just come out of the previous directory and come to the main directory where we have the manage.py file. Now using this manage.py file, we are going to make use of make migrations command. So this make migration command will make the migration files which can help us perform updations of tables and their schema in the MySQL database. Okay. So how we are going to make the migrations? Let's have a look. So in order to make the migrations, the command is pretty easy. Let me just write that for you. So we are going to access user anaconda bin Python. Okay, user anaconda bin Python, and we are going to access our manage.py file. Using manage.py file, we are going to make use of make migrations. Make migrations. So once we perform make migrations, you can see that under the blog1, under the directory migrations, we have got a new file created 0001 initial.py. Can you see that? And what this file is going to do, it is going to create the model post and it is going to create the model comment. I hope this is clear. So this means this initial.py file will help us create a post table and the comment table within the database. So once we are done with that, what next we are going to do? You can also show.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
I
It,
have an error here.
it would be better if you type your questions in the chat box, okay? Because the video gets disturbed.
Okay, sir.
Show migrations. Okay, here. So once we execute show migrations here, under the show migrations here, you can see that we have got the blog one created here. There are multiple configurations here. By default, once you will run for the first time, you're going to have some n number of things unselected for the first time when you're going to execute that. In case if you have already migrated before, then you are going to have all these as checked, but the last application which you want to integrate wouldn't be checked. So what do we have to do? We have to perform the check here. In order to perform the check, you are going to make use of a command known as SQL migrate. So for that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to make use of manage.py, and we will be using the command SQL migrate. Okay, SQL migrate. We are going to make use of our project blog1, and we are going to define which configuration we would like to install. Okay, so this is going to display the commands, the SQL commands, which will be automatically created with Python under the 0001 initial file under your project blog1. So once I run that, you can see that there are two commands automatically created. These are the MySQL commands which we could have directly created as well. But in a real-time application, tables are created automatically depending on user inputs and depending on user executions. So these are the commands which will be executed in the background. Create table blog1 post with ID integer auto increment. Along with we will be having a title, we will be having slug, we will be having content, we will be having created on and not and author. So these will be the fields which will be created within the post. Then we will have the comment. Now within the comment, we will be having name, email, website, content created on, and these information will be added. So now once we are done with that, the final command which we have to do is migrate. So in order to migrate, what am I going to do? We are just going to execute the command migrate, and it will automatically migrate your blog1 application models. So once I execute manage.py migrate, you can see that the migrations have been executed. All the migrations have been applied, like admin authentication, blog2 content types and sessions. These were previously created. For now, I have just created blog1, and you can see that the running migrations have applied blog1 initial into the MySQL database, and we have got an output as OK. Once we got this as OK, that means our table has been created. So what we can do, we have to actually access our database in order to check whether the migrations have been successful or not. So in the previous video, we have actually created the MySQL user. I think I have created the blog user along with the password ABCD12345. So using that account, now I'm going to access my MySQL. So just to verify, we are going to use sudo mysql -u, and this username will be my blog user. So this blog user has been created in the previous video, so you all can quickly refer to that. Now, once I'm going to execute the password set would be ABCD12345. And once we do that, we have got into the database. Okay. Now in the database, if we execute the command show databases, okay. So you can see that we have created the database known as DB blog in the previous session. So within this DB blog, we are going to get the tables created. So let's use DB blog. When we use DB blog and we execute the command show tables, we are going to get multiple tables here in the Django project. And the table which I have just created is blog1 comment and blog1 post. Okay. So now, in case if you want to see the schema of blog1 underscore comment, you can quickly check back using the describe. So once we execute describe, you can see that we have got the fields created: name, email, website, content, created on, and post ID. So these will be the comment table, which is created automatically in MySQL. Along with, we are going to have the blog1 post, which will actually contain your post information. So for the post, we will be having a post title, post log, content, created on, and author. So this is how we actually create models in our Django project. Okay. So now we'll be taking up the queries. So yes, Karan, please ask your query. I've got an error while creating migrations. Yeah, you can show your errors. Let me just stop my screen.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, you can show your errors.
I've got this error.
Got an unexpected argument max.
I think there's a double underscore. That's why there's an error.
Yeah. There is only one underscore, max underscore length.
Yes. So I'll correct it.
That's above in the just below the post class title.
Post class title. Okay. Yeah, I got it. Yes. Control O. Yes.
Yeah. Make migrations. Name models is not defined. Go to your class again on line number 33. You have got models.py, models.cascade. That should be small. In this post equal to models.foreign key, on delete equal to models.cascade, models is starting with small m. This is the models API actually, which we have imported at the top. Yeah, so you have to go to the second last line in the code.
Yes. Cascade should be in small, no?
No. Cascade is fine. Models should be small. Models M should be small.
Okay.
Cascade is an attribute of the models API.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
now
now
it's
you have got the migrations. Now you can show the migrations. Then you can see SQL migration with the SQL migrate command. So first you can execute show migrations. The direct step would be actually to migrate it directly. But in case if you want to verify that, before migrating, because sometimes migration may cause errors. So it's always a good idea to check back if you have got the appropriate migrations. So you can quickly go for it. Show migrations. You can use the previous command python manage.py and change
Okay,
each
and
migration
this
to migrations.
I got. That's a. Is it correct?
Yeah, yeah, it's correct. So here you can see that we have got n number of migrations. So since you are migrating for the first time, all these migrations will be installed, and you can see that the blog one migration will also be installed there. 0001 underscore initial, which is showed here.
Yes.
So as of now, none is checked. That means all these migrations will be installed. So in order to quickly check back, you can select any of this migration type, as well as so you can use the SQL migrate command and followed by the name of the application and the configuration file. So you can go again for the previous command and just change show migrations to SQL migrate, SQL migrate space followed by the application name blog one and followed by the configuration 0001 underscore initial. Initial is wrong here.
Oh, double I.
So you can see the commands now here, which will be executed at the
Yes.
backend. Create table blog one
Create
post
table.
and the create table blog one comment. So
Comment.
this
Yes, sir.
these will automatically be created. Now you can migrate with the using the previous command. Just change the parameter to migrate. So once you execute migrate, if the output is okay, that means all these tables are now successfully created in your database. So I think in the previous session, you also have created the blog user.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you can open MySQL now. Sudo MySQL hyphen user, your blog user, hyphen password, your password. What password have you specified?
ABCDE 12345.
Okay, you can use that. So now you are here in the database. You can show databases. I think you have also created the DB blog database.
Yes,
Fine.
sir.
Use DB blog now. Use is the spelling mistake. Use has to have only one S.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Use DB
Use
blog.
TV block.
Yeah. And now you can show tables. So now here you can see that you have got all the tables created, authentication group, and within that we also have got blog one comment and blog one post. So now you can use
Yes.
describe to see the schema. Describe DESC,
Yes. Comment. What
blog
was
one
that
underscore
command?
comment.
Blog one. Blog one underscore comment.
Use
I think I
semicolon.
have to.
Yeah. So now you
Yes.
have got
I.
all the fields created: name, email, website, content, post ID. You can also show the post table as well. Show the schema of the post table. Blog one underscore post. Use semicolon. And you have got title
Yes.
slash content and all. So this is how we have got our model created using the Django project. Okay, is that
Yes,
clear?
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'll stop this here.
Okay. So I hope now everything is clear. Now you guys have got to know how models can be created and how you can make use of Django projects to create your MySQL models and integrate those models with the databases. In further session, in the next session, we are going to create user interfaces, and we are going to connect these user interfaces with the models created in MySQL. Okay. So Arush, what is your status? Have you written your codes in the files, or else you will be testing it on a new server?
सर अभी तो मैंने नहीं लिखा है कुछ भी। मैं एक बार आप मुझे सर्वर बना के दोगे या मुझे इसी पे कुछ करना पड़ेगा? एक बार मुझे बता दोगे?
I'll give you a server. मैं आपको एक सर्वर दे देता हूँ, आप उसको स्टार्टिंग से कॉन्फ़िगर कीजिए और उसको टेस्ट कीजिए.
ओके सर.
So that's all for the day. I'll share the videos and next we'll catch up in the next session.
सर नेक्स्ट सेशन परसों होगा ना?
Yeah, on Friday.
थैंक यू सर.